I came here in 1976, and the last thing you want to do is come in and change everything, because then you scare everyone. Your honeymoon is soon over when you do that. This church had been standing about 6.5 years when I was elected here, but it had nothing in it, essentially. It was just the church. There was no decoration, a lectern and a pulpit and 2 clergy boxes either side that were old-fashioned when put in, wrong when put in. And the cross consisted of 2 metal bars which had been shaped to look as a rough tree trunk done in bronze, but it didn't speak to this at all. It had nothing to say to this space. It was not wrong, it wasn't right. And then we had a funny thing happen. You know, there's always something that drives the machine, and you all think, oh my goodness, what's happening to us? A member of the congregation was in the extruded plastics business and said to me, I could make you a very nice cross to go up there, about, say, 12 feet by 8 feet or something. And then in the back, we could put lighting so that you can have lights up the wall. And I went cold just thinking about it. And so I told the vestry we had had this offer. And the vestry, in shock, said, we must do something, but not that, you know. So that's how we started. The discussions actually began in 1984. I had several wonderful ideas myself, which were shown to be huge errors, and so we didn't do any of those. Then a man in the congregation, Don Labutis, and his wife Gay came to me and said that they had friends who worked decorating plates, and they brought me a plate. And the detailed work is unbelievable, simply amazing work. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, I think that's maybe the way we ought to go. And so we invited them. We had invited other people too to submit drawings, and we had a prize. I didn't hear a word from the Halletts, and I was desperate. I thought, well, I don't know what's going to happen. They're not going to bother to do it. It's not a big enough deal. And on the day the vestry was to meet, in the mail came the drawings. They submitted a finished cartoon. No bits that said paint gold here or this should be red or whatever. No, absolutely the finished work. And when I took them out the envelope, I was blinded by them. I thought, these are magnificent, the only word for it. And I put that out on the table for the vestry with all the other designs. It was so obviously right. And the vestry, it was a unanimous vote. They all agreed that that's what we would do. And so we began to draw up the contract to get all the work done with the Halletts. Oh, it was an enormous sense of relief. And then the next question was, how do we pay for these things? You see, the church didn't have any money, and it was a very, very tough time. In fact, the church was almost bankrupt. The debt was absolutely overpowering. Early on in the early days, I said to them, Transfiguration should be a major church in this diocese and nationally. If we are not careful, it will be an anchor church, dragging at the back and not getting anywhere. And we have got to move. You've got to help me. And so we put out a brochure which said, this is what we want to do, and you should have a voice in this. And that's how you do it. You make a donation, large or small, to this so that you've got a fingerprint on this piece. In spite of the fact they're beaten to death for money because we were in such sad shape, people still stumped up and said, oh yes, I want to be a part of that. It was going to be about 80,000 by the time we were through. That is a lot of money, and so that made for a big problem. We had a member of the church, Alan Gibson was his name, always sat in that pew right there, the same pew every Sunday. Never gave me any feeling that he was going to do anything particularly dramatic. And then we had a bequest. He died, and in his will, he left the church $60,000. And that, of course, immediately paid. Anything left over to be paid was paid by the Alan Gibson gift. And that's how we were able to do it. The Halletts lived in Amesbury, Massachusetts. You couldn't just run around the corner to see how things were going. But Mike Lockard, who was the senior warden at that time, kept a beady eye on things for me. And once I went up there with him to go and see how they were doing, because, of course, there was an enormous amount of money involved, and we wanted to know what it was like. absolutely beautiful. They were dazzlingly beautiful. Came back and gave a report to the vestry. Then everyone started to get excited because they would send us photographs of where they were, and we put them on the notice board, and so there was a lot of interest in what was happening with the triptych. 5 pieces hanging and held down by bungee cords. No matter what the truck did, bouncing around, they didn't move, straight through from Amesbury, Massachusetts. 3 drivers non-stop. And then finally the day came when the triptych arrived here, and we had the people from the museum, the white glove, big guys and lots of muscles and tight T-shirts and cigarettes tucked in their sleeve, and hoisting the main body, because it weighs 500 pounds. The main body, lifting it up onto the wall where they've taken a brick out completely, and lead has been hammered into the brickwork that actually take the weight of the piece. And then they put their doors up and put those on, put the pins in, and there it was for the first time. The first time the doors were closed, there are 2 angels, Gabriel holding a sheaf of flowers, and that is the angel of the incarnation. And the other angel is Michael. First sight, when you look, you think, oh, flowers. They're stars for the apocalypse. For 4 weeks in Advent and for 6 in Lent. You've seen them closed, and you get used to them being closed, and you almost forget what's the other side. Then the doors are opened for the congregation, and it's breathtaking.
Let the doors be open.
Absolutely breathtaking. Everybody, you can hear people going, as they open, Very fine. There are amazing things in the congregation, people who do extraordinary things that you think, well, you won't be here to see it happen, and someone will benefit from it. And Alan certainly was. I would never have thought that Alan would make that bequest, but he did. There have been many other instances of it too in my career. I've been very fortunate to see that happen again and again. Randy and Edna were in church, and I was bleating on in here one day and trying to figure out how we were going to put the labyrinth in, but unfortunately we had underguessed what it was going to cost. And after the service, Randy came up to me and said, how much is the labyrinth going to cost? And I said, well, it's over $100,000. And he said, and I'll have a check ready for you, and paid for it outright. And so that's how the labyrinth went in. Some years before, their only child, daughter Virginia, died, and I don't think either one of them ever recovered from that. And this was done in her name and in her honor, as it were, for Virginia. We used to have the children in to conduct the chapel services, and the triptych doors were closed. I said, who could tell me what's on the other side of this door? And then someone said, there's a man in a big, beautiful red gown. What is he doing? Oh, he's lying down. Who is that? It's St. James. The next one, someone said, there's a man going up a hill. And then I said, who's the man? Oh, it's Jesus. Peter, James, and John. And then I thought, well, how about that? And gradually they went through it with me. They told me everything up there. What it does is it says we made the right choice. So you didn't ruin their church by putting something on the wall. I can't imagine anything else there. The power of this particular icon in this congregation is that they have carried that with them, and we share that whether we're here in this building or stuck at home because of the virus. But this is Transfiguration. And they all think of this no matter where they are. And most of our parishioners know the story of the triptych. They know the story of the Transfiguration. They know about the vision. They know about the privilege of seeing our Lord that's given to us, that we see him as he is in the triptych, and that they carry that with them. And that affects everything they do in their lives. He goes with them, and he is the inspiration of all that they do. If not that, then it's nothing. It's all wasted time and paint, because the people here, unless they're doing the work of the Lord, are not doing anything that's worthwhile.